Hey everyone, welcome back to the Grown Up Millennial. It has been a crazy few months here, whether for work or personal stuff, and one of the many things that popped up was my car turned 18 and it decided to take up smoking. Something went horribly wrong in it, so I had to buy a new car. Fortunately, I had the money saved up already, just sort of waiting for my old car to break down, but it really got me thinking because I'd been considering getting a car loan and ultimately opted not to. And it got me thinking about debt in general, and particularly credit cards, because it's also the holiday season. Everyone's maxing out to buy gifts for themselves, Black Friday, gifts for other people. So I wanted to talk a little bit about credit cards. I know I've read a few studies and surveys that say that millennials as a generation don't really trust credit cards. And there are a lot of personal finance gurus that will say you should never use a credit card ever, and others that will say you should definitely use them because you can get rewards and points and protections. What I'm going to do is just have a discussion about my thoughts on credit cards, how I use them, and the situations in which I think they are good and which I think they are bad. So, full disclosure, I have 2 credit cards. I have never carried a balance on any of them. So I pay off the balance every month. I actually pay it off every week because I really don't want to get charged any interest. And I've been using credit cards for about 3 or 4 years now. And I do most of my spending on a credit card. Chances are you already know what a credit card is. It's essentially you are borrowing money from the bank on a short term to buy whatever you want. And then at the end of each month, you are charged interest. So that is essentially you're paying the bank to borrow their money. So what are the pros of a credit card? Some of the pros are, first, and probably the one you'll hear the most often, is that it lets you build your credit score. So a credit score, I'll do another video on this I think, but a credit score essentially is a number that says how good you are at dealing with debt. It's a really faulty number because I would argue that a person who's never in debt is probably really financially savvy. So a credit score essentially says how long have you had debt, how much of the balance of debt do you use, do you pay your bills monthly on time, do you let them, do you miss payments? So that's what a credit score is. Now normally a credit score for the most part is going to be used to determine interest rates and whether someone wants to give you a loan. So a car loan, mortgage, other credit cards, personal loans, etc. But sometimes credit scores are also used in job searches. So sometimes companies will use a credit score to assess a candidate for a job. Landlords will use a credit score to decide if they want to rent to you. So credit scores are used in other situations as well. If it was just used to determine whether to give you a loan or not, I probably wouldn't be that worried because I'm not that interested in getting to much debt except for maybe a mortgage. But it also is used in other areas, so that is something to think about. Now, if you have no credit score, meaning that you've never borrowed, there's nothing to report on your credit score or credit report, that probably won't hurt you job search-wise or rent-wise. But having a bad credit score, so no credit score means you have had no debt, you haven't really dealt with anything. Having a bad credit score means that you have taken on debt and you're really bad at managing it. So having no credit score will probably not hurt you in the rent/job search department, and if you have no interest in getting a car loan, mortgage, etc., then you really probably don't have to worry about a credit score at all. But if you are interested in getting a mortgage or car loan, then you want to make sure you have a good credit score because it will affect interest rates and it could also affect your job search, etc. So having a credit card can help you build a credit score relatively cheaply. Just have one credit card, buy what you would normally buy on it, pay it off each month, and that's a pretty easy way to build a credit score. You don't have to take out a bunch of money, and unlike almost every other loan, so like a car loan, mortgage, etc., you're pretty much going to pay interest because the amount is usually too large for you to avoid it. With a credit card, you have a lot more control over how much money you take out on it, so you can keep it in a manageable level where you pay it off and you don't pay interest. So a credit card is the easiest and cheapest way to build your credit score. The second benefit of a credit card is rewards. So a lot of credit cards will have rewards either in the form of airline miles or points that let you purchase gift cards or cool stuff like pots and pans or iPads, or just straight cash back. Both of my credit cards have rewards programs. Now, one of them gives me cash back, the other one gives me points. I use the cash back one the most, and I've gotten a couple $100s from that, from spending I would normally already do. And some debit cards have rewards points. They're not that common, and they're usually not that good. So that's the second benefit of a rewards card. The third is just miscellaneous benefits. A lot of credit cards include insurance programs, so if you buy something online and it doesn't turn out how you want and you bought it on your credit card, the credit card may reimburse you. It may also include, for example, one of my credit cards doesn't have any foreign transaction fees, and I travel to other countries quite a bit, so that's the credit card I use, so I won't get charged any fee for converting currency. I would on my debit card and I would on my other credit card. It can also, sometimes credit cards have certain memberships that get you discounts at certain places. So that's the third, is just miscellaneous benefits that lots of different cards carry. And the fourth benefit of a credit card is no overdraft fees. So if you keep your spending low, but maybe in between paychecks, you sometimes run the risk of having an overdraft fee when you use your debit card. You don't really run into that problem with a credit card. However, if you're a person that's getting that low between paychecks, chances are you're not in a good place spending-wise or income-wise to be relying on a credit card as is, and you really should be focusing more on getting a cushion, getting your spending under control, or increasing your income. So those are the four big benefits of using a credit card. Now, there are a lot of cons to using a credit card as well, as you've probably heard. The first is that you can overspend and you can be charged interest, and it sucks to get charged to use money, particularly if you already have money. And being in debt generally sucks. I don't recommend it unless you absolutely have to. The second big con is that for some people, psychologically, using a credit card is just really bad. They tend to overspend because they don't see it as real money. This differs for a lot of people. I would say it's probably the case for most people, is that they don't see credit cards as real money. There's a lot of different studies showing this, that people will spend more on a credit card than they would using cash, but I think it's the same principle with a debit, to be honest. I don't really think about that way. I actually overspend when I use cash, and I spend less when I use a credit card. I'm kind of weird that way. But just know that for a lot of people, psychologically, they tend to spend more on a credit card because they don't see it as real money than they would spending with cash. And I'll advocate for a credit card to do your day-to-day spending if you're not going to be doing more day-to-day spending. But if you're one of those people that will do more spending because it's on a credit card, then probably not a good choice. Third is that a lot of credit cards actually have membership fees, particularly the ones where airline miles. Usually you end up having to pay like $99 a year to actually use that credit card, which I think is ridiculous. So I would definitely avoid those credit cards if you can. A lot of cashback cards don't do that. So if you're going to pick one, I would pick a cashback card. So here's the question. Should you or should you not use a credit card? I would only recommend using a credit card if you fall into this scenario. One, you're interested in getting like a mortgage or a car loan one day that would require a good credit score, and or you work in an industry that requires you to have a good credit score rather than just no credit score. Two, you already have control over your spending. You consistently save a good chunk of your income every month. And three, you think of credit cards as actual money, and a credit card doesn't generally make you overspend. If you have all three of those factors, then I would recommend getting a credit card, or I wouldn't recommend against it. If you don't have all three of those, then it's probably not a good idea to get a credit card at this point. Leave a comment below. Do you use a credit card? What is your philosophy on using a credit card? Do you say absolutely no way at any point in time ever, sort of a Dave Ramsey type situation, or do you think that credit cards can be useful, particularly in building a credit score or getting rewards on money you already would have spent anyway? Let me know in the comments below.